The problem is nobody wants it to be true.
Yeah.
Because if it is true, today's conspiracy theories is 20 years later's admission.
Yeah.
I'm coming from a place of understanding because I was that. Probably 20 times worse. Remember my big event, like you have the Charlie Kirk thing, my big event was live 9/11.
Yeah.
Like
Have
I
you
was
seen
there
Tucker
as it
Carlson's?
happened.
Well, welcome to episode 1 of Women Create Armies. And we have a very special guest for episode 1. So thank you, my Uncle Jeff, for joining. Not really uncle, but kinda.
I was going to say, yeah, for one, A, the uncle thing makes me feel old. And B, technically, it's not true. I am your second cousin.
Yes, my mom's cousin.
Yes.
So today we're going to talk really just about a lot of topics. I don't know what we're going to call it yet. We're kind of winging this as we go.
We'll let the subject matter we get into maybe dictate that. I did not know this was I saw all the other ones. I did not realize this was your first one. I feel honored, actually.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously, I have a separate podcast we've been doing for a couple months. It's called The Melly Show, and that's just my dad and I. And then so this is a new venture that I'm starting that's specifically targeted for women and actually ask your question again. So
one of the things I was thinking of on my drive over here was and knowing some of your politics, and in the world we're in today, it's such a divisive world, left and right. And I mean, everybody gets along really well and talks really amicably with one. No, that isn't how it goes down. And one of the big parts of the left is just identity politics in general. It's divide us into categories and this is just for this and, this own this business. And, everyone is defining themselves. And one of my problems with it is defining themselves through immutable parts of their character, meaning something you can't change about yourself. So I try not to be too prideful of anything, but especially of something that was just born of me and I really don't have much control over. So I was going to come and, knowing your cousin Jeff, I was going to challenge you on the why women create armies, because that is exclusionary to about 50% of the population. So I wanted to ask you about the name.
Yeah. So I don't think that I'm for everyone, and even all women. I don't think that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to enjoy what I have to say. But something that I'm kind of focusing on through this endeavor is identifying that men and women are different. So for example, I actually love this. I told my dad, hey, can you make me a website for Women Create Armies? I texted him. He was driving and he has a Cybertruck. So he immediately calls up his website developer and goes, hey, can you make a website for Women Build Armies? And so he does. And he texts me, he says, you got it. He comes into my room and he goes, Melissa, do you know how crazy it is? When he finally got home, do you know how crazy it is that website was actually available? And I thought about it for a second. And I'm like, wait, what? Say it. What's the website? What did we save? Women Build Armies. Mm-hmm. It's Women Create Armies. That's what I texted him. I went back to the thread. That was exactly what I texted him. But the moment he called that his employee as a man, he switched it to Women Build Armies. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, whoa. Well, get me the other one. See if that one's available. And he does, and it is. And then I had a conversation with someone else the very next day, another man. And I told him, I was like, hey, I'm doing this. It's called Women Create Armies. It's pretty cool. And he goes, wow, it's really cool that you're going to do this. Women build armies. That's amazing. And I'm like,
create.
Whoa. No, I'm creating something.
Which that is actually a big differentiation.
And so the niche, something I've always struggled with, and we were just talking a little bit before we started, is you want to do something to be able to help other people, but you're like, what is my niche? What do I do my branding on? And I've never thought I was a super creative person, but it's just because I was ignoring the difference between me and another man or something like that. So I created this podcast, really the Instagram page for this podcast that 2 years ago, when I was at one of my worst places, and I saved.
So this whole Women Create Armies came from that? From 2 years? Okay, just making sure I'm following.
Yep. And so we had a podcast with my dad and I a couple weeks ago, and it airs this week, or I don't know, it aired at some point, or maybe it's still going to be published. 2 weeks ago. And I talked a little bit about how women create armies, and I said some other controversial things that have already gotten a lot of backlash. And
ooh, again, so you're gonna be spicy, is what you're saying. You intend on being spicy.
So I don't intend to do anything, which is interesting. I don't intend to be controversial. I don't intend to sow anything that would make people think that I'm trying to do something bad. But speaking the truth itself is controversial.
That's where I was going to. There's a comedian I watched lately named Jeff Dye. and he was talking about how he got kicked out of college campuses because he made a joke about how his girl was smaller than him. And on average, average woman is smaller than the average male. He's like, I didn't realize that was edgy. I thought that was just kind of common sense.
Yeah.
But, I said that, and next thing I know, all the hate mail's coming in, and now I'm not, welcome back at various campuses because of it. And he's like, I guess I'm edgy, So speaking some basic truths, especially biological truths these days can be, and which obviously you're doing if you're going to get into differentiation in women and men, which I'm a big believer in, and biblically it's very well documented.
Yes.
Then you're gonna catch some flack from certain types.
I'm going to for sure. I also don't want men to actually watch my content and think that it's really meant for them, because they're probably not going to like it, and it's not going to appeal to them.
Look how your eyes get all when you're saying that too. She is saucy about this. She is like, I like it. I like the fire. Yeah.
I'm not going to appeal to men, and so I even see it like where I'll say something super based, or I think is based, and like my own brother will be like, that's so dumb, and it's like, okay, that's fine. Like you don't really have to understand this, but it doesn't mean that it's not important for women to hear.
So I'm curious then with your Women Create Armies and that you are in fact trying to be exclusionary, which I'm happy for it, because otherwise I was going to say you're misbranded. If you're trying to be all inclusive, you might want to think of another name. I'm glad to hear you're like, no, that name's intentional, and I have a specific purpose. But I forget which is it, fourth wave. I'm curious of your opinions then on fourth wave feminism, because I think it's one of the most destructive forces in America currently. So where do you stand? Okay, then.
We talk about that in the podcast we just filmed right before this. Is like, I want to empower women, but I don't believe in modern day feminism. I don't know what fourth wave feminism is.
So some of the old feminism was very important, like women's suffrage and our women's ability to vote and own property and things that this was feminism that was important. But then they ran out of worthwhile causes. And today it just seems like a lot of man hate, right? And it's I think it misleads a lot of women, and you're seeing women in their late 20s and into their 30s who realize that they've been tricked. Like they've been tricked into, trying to be a man, and then now realizing I'm coming up on the end of my ability to be a woman.
That's 100%
in terms of what a woman is, meant to be. And I don't mean to be that, I might get canceled already.
No, you're
here
going to, right? Because you're not a woman, so you can't speak to other women.
What do I know about it, right? But I'll tell you one thing about a woman that I can't do is I can't make babies. And that is probably, one of the more important things a human being can do in terms of continuing our, existence. Right. So this is where the word create, when I read it, that was what, of course, women create armies. Well, people, no, historically, men create armies. And who created those men? So
now men would have built an army. Like they'll assemble the army and they'll build the tools you're going to use to go to war. They'll build more but that I have both websites and I'm going to probably use both. But like that immediate differentiation, like, was actually wicked cool to see on day one of being like, I'm doing this, I'm building this website, and I'm going to do that. But yeah, I think, and again, like I set up those 3 words and I saved that Instagram tag 2 years ago, and I made 6 posts. And one of the first posts was specifically the definition of an army. So I thought, if anything, that you would come to me.
That was the only word I didn't actually delve into, the women part, and the create part I caught, but army,
that's crazy.
Okay.
That's to me, if you're going to pick on any part of what I said, you would think it would be the army part, right?
Army has it's like the Swiss Army knife itself, it can have a lot of definitions.
But that's the difference between your thought process and maybe a woman. A woman who hears army is immediately going to think, well, I don't want to fight anyone. And that's not at all what I'm calling anyone to do.
No, that wasn't how I took it. But okay. I mean, armies can be more than war.
Yes.
In terms of, in broadly speaking, an army is an apparatus of warfare. It is. But in more colloquial usage, an army can just be, she's got an army behind her. You better watch out. It got an army of followers, right? It doesn't necessarily have to mean violence anymore. It just means a large group with a singular focus and mission and marching kind of orders together. So that was the one I think I understood. And the create, I even think I was pretty on. I was just like, really? She wants to She's like, so, but your answer's
yeah.
been more than perfect, to be honest with you, Meg. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was looking to do.
For the women's benefit, like, cause I was really not sure about this name, but it really hit home for me specifically. Like I will get a lot of flack, I think, and maybe I'm just setting myself up to assume that, so that when I see it, it's like, oh, that's the flack. But army, that army is going to be the hard part for people to get over, because they're going to think that I'm calling for war, and it's not true. So army, this was the first post that I made on my Women Create Armies. It's a video, and it goes through a few different definitions of things, but it really lays the groundwork for what I've set up all those years ago.
Okay.
And so an army is a unit with shared values and purpose, built on mutual trust and respect, striving for excellence. So, and the post I made underneath it was, think about who your army is. Do you want to feel like the people around you, do you want to be like the people around you? Do you feel stuck? Are the people around you moving? If you still feel stuck and like you aren't professing, or I must have misspelled that, professing through life, moving through life, study the people you are surrounding yourself with. It may be time to outgrow the people you're with, and they're part of your journey, but they will not help you get where you need to go. So sometimes like it's really hard, because the people you're with have a huge influence about of where you're heading. So if you find yourself stuck in life, pay attention. Just literally wake up and look around and see how you're allowing your world to influence you, and who is your army and what are their values? Do you share the same values? Do you not feel good about them? Like Women Create Armies, it's not just having babies, it's also creating the connections with other people who are like-minded. Not that we don't ever find controversial people, or that we don't help people who need it.
Sure.
We don't have to agree with everyone all the time. If that's true, then we would never get anything done. But we can create our environment, we can create who we're around. There's a lot of things that we can do, and that all stems from a choice. You choose to do that, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I like it.
That's the purpose.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing about the war aspect, that's something that we've been talking about a lot, is like, it's not me versus another person. We're in a spiritual battle. And so what's the first thing you do when you're in a battle?
Pick a side. I mean, first thing you have to do is know what side you're on.
Know what side you're on.
Yeah.
And then you study who you're actually fighting against. And it's not necessarily me versus anyone. It's a spiritual battle. But the moment that we're turning on each other is the moment that we've forgotten that it's more spiritual than not. But tell me what your thoughts are.
It's a spiritual battle, but it's like, for me, it's what pulled me into, coming back into the fold with Christ in general. Mm-hmm. But it's just that it's not a battle with other people anymore for me anyway, because I was to a point where I was ready for it to literally be a battle. All right, let's get locked and loaded. This is what we're doing. Let's do it. You're not going to like the outcome, but let's go. And I didn't like the way it felt, right? So it led me to analyzing myself, and then on my whole journey I went on. But it's like now, so it's like I still do think that there's a battle, but the battle isn't with other humans. It's not a battle with people. Even people who I vehemently disagree with. I have now nothing but love for them. I want to reach them, because if I can reach them, then I can help lead them on a better path. Because one of the things that is with a lot of people like that is they've been failed in some way, shape, or form, whether it was through family, through friends, through society. Along the way, they were failed, right? They didn't just come out of the womb and, have hate in their heart for other people and want to do ill within the world. But that's where they're at now. Why? Right. And there's a lot of reasons on that. And there are apparatuses that can be fight mainstream media, but not necessarily like where I'm looking to war with people, because that is then where you get into, just bad things are going to happen. And like I say, I don't know how much we're going to get into any of that, but the night where, I gave up 30 years of agnosticism and atheism and turned my life over to Jesus Christ, that was what started the journey. Was I'm either going to kind of like do something like that, or I'm going to go and, dust off the guns that I lost in a tragic boating accident years ago. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm about to be influenced by demons and become one myself. So when I was talking about that, it's the one thing I don't tell people when I say the demons were obvious. I was one of them. What was in my heart was not pure or good. I was not looking to do nice things for people. I was looking to, okay, that's how it's going to be. Let's do it then. And it didn't sit right.
That's powerful. It's like come to that realization.
That, and then, because one thing I can have in common with again, like we're going to get controversial, we might as well. One thing I have in common with like trans people is I don't have a dead name, but I do have a dead self. There was a me that existed about a month ago that I murdered him. He's buried in a shallow grave in my backyard right now, and doing a autopsy after his death, looking at some of the ways that began with me, like what led me, because I was raised in faith, right? I was an altar boy for like most of my youth. I was the most, Catholic of my immediate family.
Yeah.
Maybe even of my whole generation, at least when we were that age, right? But then I ended up being the furthest the other way in the end, right? And why? How did that happen? And I started taking a look at some of the ways that society fails people, that parents fail people, that friends, I don't know if I'd say my friends failed me or if I failed to acknowledge that I was choosing bad friends at some point, friends who did not have not only their own best interest or my best interest, but their own best interest at heart. They were very self-destructive, and then I followed along on that self-destructive path, right? And then some of that is once something gets entrenched as your identity, then it can become very difficult to get rid of, because this is just the way the human brain works. So you have all this chemical cocktail going on in your brain all the time. Dopamine, cortisol, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of different ones, right? So when you have a worldview and you've established this is my worldview, this is who I am, I identify as this, and something comes at you that contradicts that worldview, then the bad chemicals kick out, cortisol and whatever else, and it gets you fired up, some adrenaline, and you want to attack people, be like, no, and then, or when like this is people are talking and they agree with your worldview, okay, now you get a hit of dopamine, you feel good.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah, now, all right, yeah, well, you think what I think, I like you. Why do I like you? Because you make me feel good about me, right? Where it's now, I had to, challenge myself on one of the ultimate questions, which is like, how did we get here? Why are we here? What is the purpose of any of this? And I was very much part of my self-identity that I built in these teenage years, and then just never was able to let go of. Never took the time to identify, well, why am I doing some of this?
Yeah. So I know that you've been doing that research because we've kind of talked about it, and I've sent you a couple books. I don't know. I mean, I haven't even finished them myself because they're just they're hard reads, but I know that you're on this journey of like, how did this happen to me? And again, that's kind of like going to battle.
No,
like,
I figured most of it out.
You figured?
I think I figured
so
out.
I want to hear what
music
you have to say. Music
is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, I agree.
Music is one of the biggest ones. So if you get into like, you go back to the 90s and you get into some of the music that just started coming out, and as I got big into it, and none of it has any redeemable. Like if I go back and I listen to it now, I'm like, I can't believe I used to, not only just this was my jam, but it's like none of this bothered me. It's about murder. It's about, demeaning women. It's about, idolizing money and material goods.
But why do you think as a kid you let yourself listen to
that? Was what was cool. This gets into now, if you really want to get into that can of worms, and we could get into like my whole transition back to Christ. Because I
do want to get into that.
It gets into, it touches on themes of that, which is themes of self-acceptance and just, never feeling like I fit in anywhere. And, I found a group of friends that, accepted me, if you will, and that's what they were into. So that's what I needed to be into. If that same thing had happened with a bunch of church-going kids, then I probably would have gotten into that at that age.
Right.
Am I basically calling myself a wannabe? Maybe, but again, it's going to get into, and I'll wait till we get into that, because it's a huge part of, my I won't even say my one night transition, because it was literally, if there's something smaller than a nanosecond, that's how quick it was from old me to new me.
Now, what officially like triggered that?
Well, I mean, the catalyst was Charlie Kirk being killed, but it isn't about Charlie Kirk per se, right? But that was the catalyst, because that's what sparked what I've talked about already, in that dislike for other people, that, okay, you want to attack people who have similar values and similar ideas to me. And then, okay, I guess then it's game on time, because Civil War, all right, time to pick my side. And like I said, getting way too okay with the concept of viewing humans as anything but human.
Right.
So that was what the catalyst for the whole thing was. And then I had to start examining some of my own beliefs. And then there was the other part too, where I was genuinely saddened by it at one point in the night, and I was crying like profusely, and I had to ask myself, I don't know Charlie Kirk. I barely watched Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk gets back into what we were talking about with confirmation bias. The only thing I ever did with Charlie Kirk is, Charlie Kirk destroys liberal who thinks X. I'm like, I disagree with that. Let's watch this person get destroyed because confirmation bias. It feels good. I get some dopamine from it. Oh yeah, he really won that. Means he's right, which means I'm right. And that was my biggest, I'm not a big political guy, so I don't watch on right or left. Not that I even know of many really big commentators on the left that
I don't.
There's no, they really don't have.
I think
they haven't
the
captured much
news.
Of the zeitgeist right now. Yeah, but so if that's the best they got, no wonder they're kind of starting to more and more be seen as the uncool. Because you're just the guys on the
comparison of the news, and I guess so. That like people like Jasmine Crockett, she has like a TikTok, but she doesn't really talk about politics. I think that's probably why a lot of people who are on the left affiliate with like feelings and acceptance, is because like the left people who are influential don't really talk about the hard topics, but that's also feeds into the confirmation bias of there's not hardship in the world, or there is, and it's like, hey, I'm a victim and there's really not much I can do about it. And so when you want to confirm that, you find someone who can confirm that, and you can find anyone to justify anything in all of life.
Or the victim Olympics, if you will.
But also, I don't love the idea of the left and the right, because there's a lot of good people who are trying to do really well. They're just not really basing it on the truth. And so that's kind of also what this podcast is doing. That I want to do is like, what is the truth? What should we be basing politics off of? Religion shouldn't be downstream from politics, but politics should be downstream from religion. Because if we're not basing it on something, then we're basing it on worldly feelings, and we know that the most worldly feelings are not the best.
And what they're really basing it on, a lot of people are basing it on right now, is just tribal mentality.
Yes,
it's blue no matter who, or red. I don't know a good rhyme for the other side, right? It's just that's what I do, and then it's whatever the part, like this whole thing with people ODing on Tylenol, because like just there can't be any, even the concept of like cleaning up crime in the streets, and they're trying to talk about why that's bad, and it's like like you're telling me that there's literally no common ground then, because historically when I grew up too, it wasn't this bad. Hey, the one side of the aisle has their ideas, the other side of the aisle has their ideas. But like when something good happened by either one, it could be acknowledged that, okay, that was good. We prevented a war. Okay, preventing a war is good. I'm not a huge Trump supporter. Like I've never had a Trump sticker on anything or a flag, and I never will, or even wear the MAGA hat. It's just not my thing. But he did help stop a war, and I'm this is a personal thing with me, knowing my wife's Thai. There was a war between Thailand and Cambodia that was kicking off, and Trump got involved and helped squash it.
I didn't even know that.
So, okay, so there was shots fired, and it was becoming a hot war, and Trump got involved. Started, okay, you like that? How I'm like big on tariffs and sanctions these days. How would you like a bunch of them? No, thank you, Daddy. And then okay, we'll behave and squash the whole thing.
Yeah.
But could anybody give him credit for that? No, because can't let the other side have anything good to say. And why? Like, why can there not be that bit of common ground? tribal mentality.
And politics thrive on that. They thrive on the chaos between people, because the only reason that we're a bipartisan party is because they allow it. Mainstream media, they push those topics all the time. And so if I say one thing, now I'm immediately a liberal. And then if I say something else, now I'm just a Republican. And what people don't understand is that these parties move, and then they're hoping that the people within the movements will move with them. And I think that that's a testament to our current administration. Not that they have everything right, but there's people who at one point were liberal. Like Trump himself was a liberal, but the liberal parties move so far. And that's the pendulum swing that we talk about in politics.
So I was a classic liberal when I was younger, right? And I was never a Democrat. I've never registered as Democrat or Republican, but I was definitely what you would call a classic liberal. And then as I got older, I became a bit more of a fiscal conservative, which means if you've ever done the political test with the political compass.
Never.
So you answer like 100 and some questions, right? And I've done it in multiple places. And then you're either on the left or right, which is liberal or conservative.
Yeah.
And then the top or bottom is authoritarian or libertarian, right? And mine is like a marksman's grouping. Every single one I've taken, I'm within just a smidgen of absolute center.
Yeah.
Which means I don't really have political leanings. The financial ones, I tend to lean conservative, but on a lot of other social ones, I tend to lean a little bit liberal, classic liberal, right? But by that definition, even being dead center of the political compass, I'm a far right extremist now. I am.
Yeah.
Just because the left moves so far left that to them, I am super far right.
Yeah.
But I haven't moved. Like, I have not changed any of my opinions. I'm pretty much still the same person I always was. Even with my big, change within the faith and whatnot, overall, my opinion on like everyday issues, that hasn't changed a ton. So, and not only that, but it's like, realistically, what the Republican Party is today is a huge win for liberals. Real liberals, not leftists, real liberals, because the Republican Party used to actually be conservative, like conservative to the point where today I always used to like to read about what crazy people and what the current leftists started out as, your searchable word was social justice warriors. I was like, oh, these people are nuts. This is about the time I came back from Asia. Around 2010, I moved to China. Around 2015, I moved back from Thailand. So I was in Asia for like 5 years. When I came back, it was these social justice warriors. They were the nut jobs, and they've only gotten worse. Now they're called Antifa and whatever else they call themselves. But before that, the crazy folk I was looking into were the Christian conservatives in Kansas who wanted to teach Genesis in the science classes. I'm fine with you teaching faith in school. I'm fine with I was never opposed to that. If you want to put the 10 Commandments, they're good rules to live by. I'm fine with it. Prayer, or, why can't I think of it? I'm having a brain fart. Where you used to say in the morning, you face the flag and the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God. Sure, great, no problem. But Genesis in science class, there's no science to it. So, the scientific method is a very specific thing about just how you reproduce results. How are we reproducing anything in Genesis to validate its, validate its validity? That doesn't sound right, but you know what I'm saying.
I think there's some things that can be linked to science, but I think to teach that as the basis for these kids in common day, like in this era, like to use Genesis as a basis, I don't.
Not only that, but that's not the appropriate way to examine faith. If the Bible has to live up to every new scientific discovery we make, then sooner or later you're gonna be like, oh, okay, so it's useless. No, it's not useless. It was written by people a long time ago, and you look at it like everyone will tell you, well, it was inspired by God. So outside of that which Jesus said, I take with not a grain of salt, but let me put it this way. If you had a ant farm, right, and you learned to speak ant, and to the best of your ability, right, you tried to explain to them who you were, why they're here, and what it is you want them to do. do you think they'd really be able to understand your intellect?
Probably not.
And not only could we not do it today, in my opinion, I don't think Bronze Age shepherds were doing it any better, understanding the true, intent of God. Now, if Jesus said it, then that's different because he was God incarnate on the earth. That's different to me. But like you get into the Old Testament, even into some of Revelations and stuff, there is room for error. Like I'll give you one, the Bible classifies bats as birds. In Leviticus, it talks about the unclean birds, and one of them it mentions as bats. Well, you know as well as I do now that a bat is closer related to a mouse than a bird. Does that invalidate the Bible? No, it's just they didn't have the understanding we did back then, and they were doing their best with what was presented to them, in my opinion.
It's interesting because you might say that, and then like someone would be like, "So you're just saying the Bible's all based on lies?" Like
some people will.
I'm not gonna lie that when you said that on face value, I'm like, where is he going with this? But you're right. People are taking like the facts as they know it today and invalidating the Bible. That was written thousands and thousands of years ago. So you have to take what they say, kind of with a grain of salt that they were in a different era.
I don't like that term. I want a better term for that because it's not that I take it with a grain of salt, but it's like
you have to understand the context. Error. You have to understand the context, and that's what you're doing.
And the other one is like, they're like, it's inspired by God. Well, true. God didn't write the Bible. Now, if the story was God wrote the Bible, then what I would be saying is blasphemous. But nobody's telling us God wrote the Bible.
And I think that there is a lot of unknowns in the Bible. Like we will have questions, and we're not always going to have all the answers.
Especially in Genesis. Oh my God, I'm on my second reading of the Bible, and I'm trying to read literally every version known to man. And I'm in the hardest one right now. I'm doing the King James. Oh my God,
that one is hard.
King James is so
but
hard.
I actually like that one more.
Well, it's the most literal.
Yeah,
it's the most literal translation.
I like the American one, but I think it's too American. Like honestly,
so I started with it's funny too, and I started this whole thing, and I reached out to I got to go buy a Bible. And, I'm reaching out to some of my Catholic peeps, and I'm like, what Bible do you all read? And they're like, what do you mean? We read the Bible. I'm like, you don't know what version of the Bible you read? They're like, well, the Catholic Bible.
My mom would tell you the King James version, by the way. So that's like...
That's not the Catholic Bible, though.
No, it's
not. The Catholic Bible is the NRSV-CE, which is the New Revised Standard Edition. The New Revised Version Catholic Edition. That's the technical name for it. Then there's the NIV, which is the New International Version. The first one I read was the Catholic, the King James, right? And then I bought one for Ava, which I love. Giving it to her for Christmas. It's called the NIRV, which is the New International Reader's Version. And they really dumb down the language so that it's accessible to someone who doesn't want to read such high language, like a child.
Yeah.
Right. I was sitting there in the store. I was doing this today. I bought it for. And I'm reading through it, and I'm like, Ava could read most of this.
Yeah.
Like I can literally give her a Bible. Now, is it the legit Bible? No, it takes liberties, obviously. The original one.
But I count any kind of Bible reading as a win anyways. So you can always build on that and get more complicated, but then you have a basis to actually that's you hear this term more now than I think ever, at least in Gen Zers, like based. Something that's based. Okay, well, what is it based on? I mean, it's whatever the context is of that conversation. But now you're giving Ava a base of knowledge around God and all the history all those years ago that might not be perfect. But God never called us to be perfect. He called us to.
We're not. That's the whole point of. That's the whole point of salvation. I heard this guy. It was actually one of the best. Like I'm going to use this with people when you're trying to explain the basic point of Christianity, right? How do you explain it quickly to someone who doesn't really have it? And it was a guy who'd committed a weapons charge, and he was talking about it. He was like, I committed this crime, and I'm in court, and I'm facing the consequences of this. Like, I'm going to go to jail for this. And I called my dad, and my dad was like, okay. And he's like, he went and he got me a really high-priced Jewish lawyer. I don't know why the Jewish part mattered, but it's part of the story, and I'll honor his original story. A really high-priced Jewish lawyer, and we got into court, and we didn't even talk. My lawyer knew the judge. He walked up, he chatted with the judge for a little while, and then boom, I was free. It's like, I was guilty. I did it. But because I had a lawyer who had a relationship with the judge, I got off.
Yeah.
You get the metaphor, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're the sinner. We're the one who committed the crime. The lawyer is Jesus, and he has the relationship with God. And he can vouch for us as long as we believe in him and we repent and we're trying our best. Are we going to be perfect? No. But as long as you are moving towards that or genuinely attempting to improve yourself and live by the rules that were set forth,
Yeah.
he's going to vouch for you in court and be like, nah, I know this guy. He's good. I'll see you on the golf course later, Dad. And boom, you get to go to heaven where we don't belong because only perfect beings were meant to go there. It was only through, and that's where the whole, why he died on the cross and what that allowed for us was basically for him to vouch for us in court. Now, is that an oversimplification of it? Yes, 1,000,000%. But do I think that that'll work in explaining to people who don't understand the significance of him dying on the cross? Or, I heard he died for our sins, but what does that mean? That is like, I think one of the best simplistic.
I like that.
I'm going to use it a lot.
Yeah.
So I've been talking with a lot of people lately about just faith in general, and I speak more. I less inclined to talk with people who have it already, and I more reach out to people who don't.
Well, I like that too. And so something I want to touch on is like something that I also want to do with this podcast is basically meet people where they are. Like everyone has something interesting to say. And it's like, we're supposed to go through spiritual battle. Our life is not supposed to be, we know God our entire lives. We don't go through struggles. But what you just did with that story, now, if you're like an elevated Catholic who believes that you know everything and that you've been so righteous in your beliefs and all that, you would hear that and immediately be like,
I wouldn't need the lawyer.
You would.
I'm no. So
no,
this is
I do what I'm supposed to do. But what you just did is you met someone where they were in a story that they can relate to, and you just planted a seed. So now at least they have a basis that they can understand because it's where they're at.
Yep.
And you went through that yourself. And if that would have helped you at a point in your journey, even just planting the seed, there's lots of seeds that have been planted
that's another thing I'm working on with. Now there's things I work on with my non-believer friends and just people I meet and trying to help bring them back and let them know like how much it can help. It's just the number one thing I lean on is how much Jesus' love can help you, and just legitimately surrendering your life to his plan. Mm-hmm. Like legitimately, not just say it, but when you really do it,
freeing.
The weight that melts off you is unbelievable. But what I'm working on with my faithful friends is I try not to be overly judgmental with this, but like I've had a talk with a few of them, and it's like, they're happy that I'm back in the fold, and they call me and they chat with me, and it's Jesus this and Jesus that, and all. It's all happy, and they don't like when I ask, where were these conversations when I was a non-believer? That's when you should have been talking to me about this, not now that I'm a believer too, and we all get to get our dopamine out of this, right? Ooh, we all think the same thing. It's a fun, easy conversation. Where was it when I was an asshole about it? When it was a difficult conversation to have. Now, think of the Bible and what's commanded in the Bible. When were you supposed to do it? Is it now that it's a fun conversation? Don't get me wrong. It's a great conversation to have, but be better. If you have any other friends like that, I'm doing it on the daily right now. I call people and they don't want to hear it. I got one friend in general. I game with him all the time. If you watch this later on, I'm talking about you right now. And he doesn't really want to come back. He was now I don't necessarily want him to go back to what he was before. He was a Bible literalist, the 7,000-year earth, flat earth kind of Bible literalist. They don't necessarily, and then very judgmental of other denominations where it's like, hey, and any way people are finding their way to Christ, let it be, right? But it's like it's very uncomfortable conversations with him because he doesn't really want to have it, but I don't care. No, I can't let it be the only thing we talk about because he'll just stop talking.
Right.
But I gotta, at the proper ratio. Right, I got to slip it in, and then with a lot of them, every Sunday I hit them up. So
again, that's just like planting little seeds, and it's not where your entire relationship is now. What you believe, like it never should. We should always have conversations, and we should also meet people where they are. I love that. People
seeds.
Yeah, people just need. They just need you to understand that they're going through a battle too, and that being compassionate is the best way to win
Yes.
people over.
The thing I'm big on with it, the thing that got me is the love of it. It's the thing that brought Ava into the fold too, my daughter.
Is that
right?
the same one, or did you get a bunch of them?
She will not let me have this. The one
I'm
she got.
sure.
So the one this thing caused a drama at my house.
Can we insert like a little video of like somewhere in this podcast, because he has a video of Ava finding it and he
Oh no, I have an even better one. Can I show it to you real quick?
Oh my gosh, yes, please.
Let me go grab my phone.
I love it. So
and
cute.
we can get into a bit of that. It's like it caused drama between my wife and I, but I don't know if you saw the post I did the other day of be careful how you speak to your loved ones.
No.
Because the other one I get on X. You're not on X.
I don't go on X very often.
Get on X.
I am.
Don't go on Twitter, but Twitter doesn't exist anymore. You want to know where the most discourse is happening, where both sides actually participate?
Yes.
X. It's X. But anyway, so on my post for it, let me see if I can find my own. I'm not great with all this stuff.
Me neither. I struggle with all this.
Always be careful with how you speak to people, specifically loved ones. Every moment can be a fork in your road leading to greater understanding or greater resentment. And then I always put a Bible verse with it. A gentle answer can calm a fierce rage, but a harsh word can make anger flare up. Proverbs 15:1.
Love it.
And it was because, I could have been in a big fight over this with my wife. And instead, I was displeased, but instead of chastising or belittling or anything of that nature, I came at it from a place of love and understanding from her point of view. And one of the things you'll see in the video I was going to show you of Ava is this the whole Buddha versus Jesus thing, right? In my household. So my wife is Buddhist, and like just like you were raised Catholic, raised Buddhist, right? Yeah. And on top of that, it's like she's like, if you have children, my wife is the child you want to have. You want to talk about a woman who is devoted to her parents. Like, I won't even tell you some of the horrors that my wife put herself through in life in order to take care of her parents. So yeah, she is everything you'd want in it. So that
I love, like, she's an amazing person.
She's super wonderful.
You did so. I don't know how you did it, actually.
You don't have to go even any further than that. It's just that beginning of it. Sure. Start. I don't know why was. It's not past tense. It still is Ava. Yeah, I can do it too if you want. Yeah, but you skipped under another.
Damn. It's not easy.
It's pleasant. But if you want to, we could maybe later on do like I can even send it to you if you want to cut it in. But like my wife is braiding her hair. She's sitting there talking about Jesus or Buddha and whatnot. And like this little thing, now I did have to narc on myself. At first she was like, she thought Jesus put it there. And I'm like, oh, that's adorable. I'm not going to correct it. Right. But I wanted her to give it away. And this is a lesson for me about, not lying.
I think it comes back to your story of one of the reasons you left Christianity. Remember when you told me that?
Yeah, and that I won't with Santa Claus and that. But it's also like you tell a little lie, even a cute little lie, then it leads to another lie, and it leads to another lie, and I had to come out and be honest with Ava at one point. And what it was I didn't tell her that no, quite in fact, Dad put that there, not Jesus. Like the first video you saw where I was like, who put it there? And she's like, well, Jesus. And I'm like, could be, right? I didn't confirm it, but I continued to let her believe it. But the point of them is to give them away. So she's like, no, and she literally cried when I told her that. So we went out and I gave one away, and I came home and I made sure to put 2 more on my nightstand. So then now she's got this concept, oh, you give one away, you get 2 more. And then she decided out of the blue, she decided she's going to give hers away now, right?
Yeah.
So she gave one away, came home. I had something else to do after, and I went and did it. And I completely forgot that she had done it. The next day, she was all emotional.
Oh.
Right. And she, in general. And we sit her down because we're very big on talking with her, right? Not just, we treat Ava as
like another
equal,
adult human being.
To an extent, right? You got to treat a child like a child, but we speak to her like she's a human being, not just a child. And so, what's wrong, honey? And I never got my 2 Jesuses. I was like, oh my God. Like, A, I'm a horrible dad. That's right. I told you if you give it away, you're supposed to get 2. And then B, I didn't do it. And then mostly I should never. So then I just came clean. I'm like, look, Daddy did all of it, right? And it didn't change her opinion. She's still like her little 5-minute Bible stories. First Bible I bought her is just like it's not even a Bible. It's a kid's book.
Yeah.
It condenses a lot of the stories of the Bible into like short, little, understandable to small children. It's the only book she wants to read at night lately.
I love that.
Every night, I'm like Tuesday, and this is where I'm trying to be amicable with the wife too. I bought one with stories of Buddhism. So Tuesday we have to read from the Bible book before bed. And Thursdays we can do a story from the Buddha book. And but she just every night she's like, "Oh, can I read the Bible? Can I read the Bible? She's gonna read the Bible one." I'm like, "Well, you got to do it on Tuesday. You can pick any book you want today, right?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Okay." I picked that book. Fair enough. We can read it. And this is where some of the stuff with the wife came from, but some of it was on me. I hadn't communicated with her what was going on with me, and I don't think. Quite a few people in my life, I don't think understand or believe entirely that when I tell them, like, the dude you knew a month ago is gone. Gone. There's no coming back from what I went through. It was not a minor event.
I wasn't sure at first either because you were texting me this stuff and I'm like, okay. And then it's just going to be like a little thing. And I never, ever, ever, ever would want to even almost think that.
When I tell you the story, you'll understand that.
Well, it's never going away. I heard that, the moment that it finally clicked for you, I think this was the first time I saw you since all of that. It was when we went to the Charlie Kirk light thing, late candlelight vigil. And my mom's like, wow, your dad must be so happy that like you've come back. And then I watched you get really emotional over the fact that specifically.
Dude, that broke me down. Like the dude is just like one of those things that's an unintended result of it. It's like, okay, yeah, all right, fine. I believe in Christ and, heaven and all that jazz. Great, cool. When I realized, wait, that means I get to see my dad again? Because as, being secular previously, everybody told me when my father died, and my mother too, but it was my father specifically was very disappointed in me. And he was the only person who never gave up on trying to pull me back in. And I was mean about it sometimes. Not like where I was purposely trying to hurt him, but like I would be, that confirmation bias we're talking about. Someone's attacking my worldview. So I would come at him and just be like, leave me alone, Dad. I'm crying out loud. I'm sick of listening to your blah, 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 being just a horrible son. So yeah, when that hit me, that, not only, and he died as I was traveling back from Thailand. Like, I was set to go to the airport and I got the phone call that we lost him. So I never got to say goodbye. I never got to say I'm sorry for a lot of the things. Sorry, I'm very moving with my feet. I'm kicking some of your cables down here.
It's okay.
So I never got to really say goodbye or say my piece with them, because I was living abroad when he was going through his cancer battle, which in and of itself, I have guilt over, but at the same time, wouldn't change it for anything because then Ava doesn't.
Yes,
I get it. It's not something I could change. In the end, even though it didn't feel like it at the time, it was the right decision because, I don't even know if any of this happens. If, any decision I make differently, going back in my life, unless I go way back to super, super childhood and just to decide to not be a jerk through my teenage years. But even then, there's no way I have Ava, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, kind of like on the journey of your Christianity. So tell, like, I know my view, you know, when you were traveling around 2015, I was 14 years old.
Sure.
So, I mean, I just kind of remember you were the cool uncle that would always come around, and then we would just go and do fun things. Like we'd be up north, we would go with you and like pick up rocks down the beach. And you always made
Take
time.
pictures and
Yeah, you
that's still
always
one of my
made
favorite.
time for like us as like you didn't have any kids
I was still
at
a
the
big
time.
kid too. So
Yes.
that's why I like the kids.
Yeah. So like whenever you were in town, it was like, oh, Uncle Jeff's here. Like, I got to go find him. And then I would just go run and find you. We would just like anything. You were just down to do absolutely anything. And it was always fun. But I don't really know much about like your journeys. I actually am writing down when you moved around because I'm like, oh, I know he's working. And I think you lived in America for a time, but still traveled abroad. But then there were times where you lived
back and forth a good bit. So it's like I got into this industry in early 2000s, like late 90s, early 2000s. So I did some domestic travel. I've lived in Louisville, Kansas City, Minneapolis, Norfolk, Virginia, Cleveland. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch. I've lived in a bunch of different places. And by some of them I was there 2 weeks to 2 months. Some of them I was like Louisville, I lived in on and off for like 4 years.
Wow.
It's a cool town. But then I lived in Canada back in like 04, 05-ish for like 2 years. I lived in Mexico in 05 and 09, probably 6 months each time. And then the big time abroad was like, I think 2010. I went to China for half a year and then from China straight to Thailand. And I tried staying in Thailand as long as I could because I loved it there. It may have to do with the pretty lady I met. But, you know, I lived there for about 4.5 years. And then from there I came back and from then I've been back in the fold. So that part you're probably more aware of, like from 2015 till now. I've just been, it actually hit me one day driving home from work. And this was even before Ava was born. I bought a condo, you know, because I still traveled domestically a little bit. I took a job because we were looking and having a baby where I worked locally. I had the same commute every day, and I'm driving home, and I was just like, it made me sad for a minute. I'm like, is this it now? This is just my drive now? Because I was used to, it's fun to do. Like when you're constantly moving, especially when you start going abroad, and you live there, you're not vacationing there. Meaning, you know, I'm not living in a hotel where I can just call the front desk to take care of problems. Like in Thailand, I remember getting a flat tire on the car I was renting, and I'm like, where do I go to get a tire? They don't just have tire stores like we do. Like how do I get this fixed? Something as simple as that was an adventure. Just going to the grocery store. They're not like our grocery stores. Excuse me. China's even more different than ours. Like, and it's just like simple things like that can be great adventures. So then it's kind of like almost like the movie Hurt Locker. So then when you come back later on, you can it can feel mundane a bit. Right? Yeah. Like it's just, okay, this is my grocery store. This is my gas station. This is my drive to and from work. Every day I'm in Groundhog Day now, right? It's just rinse and repeat. So it's like, I did miss it a bit, but Ava cured all that. And which is why I was doing it, just so, you know, if Lake watches this, you were enough too, honey. But if you remember, we were traveling around together. I only stopped traveling because we were going to have a baby. Mm-hmm. And before Ava came, I was like, man, but then as soon as I held Ava, I was like, oh yeah, I'll be as boring as you want me to be. Boring as I need to be. I'm going to be here with her all the time.
I love her. She's amazing. That girl is
She's going to be something.
So smart.
She's going to be something.
So smart. The way that you guys handle her, like, I really admire. I think you guys are doing a great job. And it's not that you know exactly what to do in all the moments, but you actually have the hard conversations with her, which is, again, it's kind of something we were talking about right before this is parents nowadays, one of the worst things that you can do is just kind of lie to your kids, even if it's small lies, like, oh, it's just because it's so, or maybe allowing yourself to be lied to so that you don't actually really seek like, yeah, that's a great question. Why is it that way? Let me find out. Why don't we find this out together? Like we're all doing life for the first time. As parents, you don't have all the answers.
Some of it you get to re-experience for the first time through her eyes. And the other one is I did take inventory of things I hated as a child. Yeah. And I will not do them. And one of them was, hey, do X, Y, or Z. Okay, why? Because I'm an inquisitive child, like all children are, because I said so. Well, that's not an answer. I wasn't trying to be insubordinate. I just wanted to know why do we do it that way. So when Ava asks me why, hey, go clean your room, go do this, go, and she asks me why, I don't ever say because I said so or some authoritative BS like that. I sit her down and explain it. Like, do you want to live in a messy house where you got to step over everything and you're tripping all the time and people come over and they look at you weird because your house is a pigsty? Do you want to live like that? Well, no. And if we don't do it on the regular, if we're not picking stuff up at least every day or every week and keeping it organized, well, then eventually it gets to be a huge, huge job. And how do you tackle a job that big? She's like, oh, I wouldn't want to do it. Right. But if you do it in increments, what's increments, Daddy? She always asks, like, what words are
I love that, by the way. I love when anyone asks, because there's lots of words I don't know, and I just kind of ask them, like, what does that even mean? They're like, oh, I think it means this. I'm like, well, I'm going to find out for sure.
Well, if you remember, I told you, like, one of the beauties of leaving Christianity and then, hey, I get to come back, so I still get the benefits of Christianity. But one of the good parts of my absence from it was I studied many, many, many religions. And that's one I actually took from Scientology, which is they have a rule. You don't go over words you don't know.
Right.
Don't just read past it. Don't just skip by it. If a word comes up you don't know, find out what it means.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I didn't find much else useful from Scientology. Sorry, Scientologists. But that one I did actually find pretty useful, and I've adopted that into life. And Ava has picked up on it, and she does the same quite often. I'll actually give her grief now if I use a big word, and she just lets me continue talking. I'm like,
you know
she
what
knows
that means?
too. I look at her and she's like, what does that mean? Yeah, I'm like, she knows when I'm giving her the eye for it. She's like, yeah, I was just gonna let you go.
Yeah. Sometimes we get like, I know when I'm really busy, I'll be like, oh, I'll just come back to it. We're never coming back to it. And it takes 3 seconds. Like,
well, on these phones these days too, you can just touch it, look up. Oh, that's what that means.
And then again, like it kind of feeds into, and I don't know what the name of this bias is, by the way. I love learning about them because it just helps you understand more about human nature.
Human psychology, yeah.
And I want to say, no, maybe if I explain what the bias is, you can help me with this. But
now we can look it up.
When you learn something new, and then you see it everywhere.
Oh yeah, I don't know the name of it either.
But that's going to really bug me. So.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, we'll have to look that one up.
Do it. It's just irritating.
But you look it up while I chat about it. It's the one concept that gives you like that is that whenever you buy a car, as soon as you buy a car, you see them everywhere. And now, is that as big as like learning something new? But it is kind of the similar concept. Like you didn't see it everywhere before, not because it wasn't there, but it's just because you weren't looking for it. But now that you're cognizant of it, suddenly you see it. What's that? The reticular activation system. Ooh, that's fun. So, I like that reticular activation system. That's what that's called.
So what the bias part, it's called Bader-Meinhof phenomenon or frequency illusion. So just a couple ways you can kind of, and it's.
I'm going to look all these
So
up.
Again, confirmation bias. So that's the one that I usually sit on is like at once. So it's why I'm so strong on like just plant a seed. You don't have to change anybody's mind in a conversation. No. But if you're planting a seed, they're just going to be more aware of it going forward. And the more you hear something, and then also the example you set with what you're saying.
That is
huge.
If you enter conversations to win,
you will
lose. It's not about winning.
No.
It's about caring. It's about listening. Same like, okay, my wife's Buddhist, and I respect that. Do I want to bring her over to Christianity? Yeah. No. Am I going to do that by forcing her?
No.
Am I going to do that by, even gently nudging her? No. How I'm going to do it is by being a living example of the benefits of it in front of her every day.
Yeah.
And this was one of the conversations her and I had. And she was like, yeah, I like you a lot better now. I'm like, and of course, I'm a smart ass still by nature. I'm like, so you're saying you didn't like me before? Is that what you're saying? Like, no. I'm teasing, honey. I know what you mean. I like me better too. Don't worry about it. Because I was more quick to be frustrated before. I was more... it's one of the things I wear this for. This was my dad's ring. It's got this Corinthians saying on it, love is patient, love is kind. So when I do find one of my things, you'll see me doing it a lot, not here on this, but like in every day, see me, I put my finger in this, I put my hand like that, and I pull on it. And it just centers me, right? And it reminds me, I do it when I'm being a jerk, When I feel myself being old me, getting frustrated, especially frustrated with inanimate objects. It was very common for me. But it's like, I'll probably say it wrong, but when I was a child, I thought as a child, I spoke as a child, I acted as a child. When I grew up, I put away childish things and acted as a man, right? That is childish. To lash out in anger at humans, even more so, because you're just not treating them as another person, and you're letting your own personal emotions be more important than how you're being perceived, and then how you're making other people feel, and you're spreading your ill emotions. But like even more so with technology, like really, you can't figure out how to make it work, so you're gonna throw a tantrum like a child in a supermarket. Like that's not an adult way to behave when things don't go your way, which is all it really boils down to.
Right.
Something isn't doing what you want it to do. It's not going your way. I would be the type to start cussing and swearing, and I've broken more than a few things just because I was mad at like an object.
Yeah.
So yeah, that type of stuff. I like me better a lot now too, because I really don't do all that, and I'm like super friendly. I make friends everywhere.
Which is funny that you say that you're friendly now, because I never thought you weren't friendly before. But now, so what I would say about prior you, and I don't dislike this, but it can be frustrating sometimes.
It's okay to dislike previous me. I do too. It's okay. You won't offend me.
But you will still say that you do it now, and I actually don't mind. What I don't mind is when it comes from a malicious place, and it's like being the devil's advocate. I hate
that term.
I love the mindset of it, but again, it's like the intent. So you're right. The term actually sucks. So maybe we can coin a better one, or I'm sure there's a better one.
Yeah, but it's just counterpointing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would do it just because, same like we were talking about. I need to be right. Right? As I'm in a conversation, I'm going to show you how right I am. That's when it's bad. But when I used to do it and it's good, and I'll still do it this way where it's good, is it just makes for more interesting conversations.
Yes.
Because almost any topic is nuanced enough.
Yes.
Where I can argue either end of it. And this is something
but I think that's unique to you too. Not everyone can do that.
Not me, but it's unique to it's a smaller percentage of people who can do that. I don't get as locked in on my belief. And my belief prior to like a month ago is like that I don't have a belief, that I'm going to alter my beliefs based on new information, because that's the way the universe works, right? Like when something new comes along that directly and blatantly contradicts something you previously believed, then you have no choice but to abandon that previous belief.
Or lie to yourself.
Or just lie to yourself, which is what most people do. And this is where even like part of that flip when it happened in me, it was like the whole demons thing, right? It's like, well, if demons are real, then oh my God, so must everything. So it was and then I had to hold myself to my own words, which is new information is being presented to me, and I have no choice but to. Although that isn't really what the catalyst was. The catalyst was far more personal than that.
Yeah, so actually, I do want to get into that. So you talk about how...
Is it crying time then? You got tissue in here? I've only been able to tell this. I've only told the story once, and I've even practicing telling it by myself. It chokes me up. So I will get choked up.
So I can ask you a specific question.
Sure.
Like, so I have a question, but also you can segue into this whenever you feel.
Sure,
don't feel like I have to cue it or,
I was waiting for it to come organically, and if it doesn't, then maybe I come out for another podcast some other time.
But my question to you is, so you say that like even not old you, like you have a lot of the same views as you did before.
Yeah, so it's not 100% different. But.
Absolutely, like not 100% different, but like how does that carry over into now your path to Christianity? And that might have more to do with like why you're doing it.
I suppose I don't understand the question entirely.
The question. So you mentioned earlier, you said that you've had a lot of the same thoughts or feelings or like your views. So particularly when we were talking about the left and the right, I've had a lot of the same, like the.
And my views on that are pretty similar now.
Yeah, it's all pretty similar. So how do you carry that over into like?
It's just about I have love for everyone. Right? I don't get into this dislike. I used to pick a side, and if someone didn't agree with me, I get dislikey of them. And social media is evil because it still tries to pull me into this. Mm-hmm. People, they'll show you some clip of somebody doing something horrible, and your first thought is to be like, "Well, yeah, try that on me," and it's like, no. And then the big difference is just trying to come at everything from a point of view of love. And this is why I tell you I'm so friendly now. And you say, "Well, you were friendly before." you didn't see the way I was with strangers. And part of this gets into what happened. So I don't know if maybe I should just tell that story.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Okay. So I'm writing a book, and I'm big on first lines of books. And I think you got to have a clever first line. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. So the first line of the book I've started to write, which is all about just both me, and it's the story of one night while also being the story of my entire life. And the start of the book is long before I ever abandoned God, God abandoned me, right? And your first thought is like, no, God doesn't abandon people. But if you take that in context of the 1848 novel Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray, I think, he has a great line in that book, which is, "Mother is the word for God on the lips and in the hearts of small children."
Wow.
So long before I ever abandoned God, God abandoned me. Now, I'm not talking about God the Father. I'm not talking about my mother, right? So I'm adopted. And my parents went with the methodology of telling us I always knew I was adopted. And I don't like getting into, armchair quarterbacking or, looking into well, you should have done that. Hey, they were doing the best they could. In retrospect, seeing my daughter and her ability to process information, I don't know that I personally think it's the best methodology, because I don't think my little brain knew what to do with the information of.
So you would have rather not known that you were adopted?
The concept would have been later in life. The concept would have been later in life that the trauma would have been very substantial, but I would have had better faculty to deal with it. So the trauma, first of all, if you ever read into adoption trauma, there's trauma that just comes along with it, right? Like you develop a bond with your mother while you're in utero, right? This is one of the reasons I was always, even when I was non-faithful, I was anti-abortion. I don't use pro-choice or pro-life. They're both bullshit terms. Pro-life, okay. Do you support the death penalty? I do. So I'm not pro-life.
I don't.
I do in certain cases, right? Maybe now I may have to rethink that, so then I might actually become pro-life. And then pro-choice, well, okay, can I choose to punch you in the face? No, then you're not pro-choice. You're in that particular debate, and you're either anti-abortion or pro-abortion. Mm-hmm. And I was anti-abortion even before I came back into the faith. I was one of the few people who, I did it logically. And B, I just knew I felt trauma from being abandoned by the woman who carried me, right? And it's like I never felt I had any value. I never felt secure with anyone. I feel everyone is going to leave me. And right. I don't, and I built walls around me. Thick, big, like, I don't know if you've ever been in a bomb-making facility.
Never.
So in a bomb making, now when I was there, they weren't making bombs, but it was an old bomb making facility. The walls are about 4 feet thick, and the roof is made of thin wood. And the whole point is if anything blows up, it all just goes up, okay. Right? It doesn't blow out and hurt anybody nearby, right? So I built bomb making facility level walls around myself. It's one of the reasons I was such a jerk to people. One of the reasons I wouldn't be friendly with is if I keep you at a distance, there's no opportunity for you to, come into my life and then abandon me, so I had this deathly fear of rejection. And I just convinced everyone at some point is going to reject me.
Right.
Right. And it's one of the reasons I became very malleable, where I would change who I am based on who I'm around to try and gain this acceptance that now I don't particularly need. And then there's the whole worldview, the confirmation bias you're talking about. So along the way, so those are the two apparatuses that came into this whole thing, walls and a box, right? The box was, okay, once I abandoned Christianity, anytime, and this is why Charlie Kirk was part of it, anytime anyone would make a good argument for Christianity, I would have to dismiss it. I would have to not pay attention to it. I would have to discredit it. And one of the reasons that the Charlie Kirk thing, I think, became the catalyst for it is I would watch Charlie Kirk and I would watch him destroy liberals on, whatever, something I agreed with him on, right? Transgender rights, this, that, or the other thing, various immigration policies, different things that I agreed with him on. And then he'd get biblical, and I'd be like, all right, now he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm like, okay, so I just thought he was a very smart man who really knows his stuff, but then as soon as he starts talking about the Bible, you don't know what you're talking about. So he went in the box, right? Everything he said went there. There was a lot of my dad in the box. There was a lot of this box that I just didn't ever examine. I said, pushed it out and put it into the back of my brain. And this is all an allegory, obviously. Like this, it's not this literal,
right,
what happened, but I don't know how else to express it in words. So through that night, as I'm examining everything, I just, I didn't even know the box existed. I didn't know I was doing that. Like, it wasn't a conscious effort. And it's like, I was fascinated by this thing, so much so that I feel like those walls I built were kind of melting away at that time, right? And I realized that I built this box up against Christianity. I had tried to be everything else. I tried to be Buddhist. I tried to be, you name it. I was a witch for a year, into Wicca and whatnot. I never got into like witchcraft per se, where I was casting spells and things, but I tried my best, crystals and blah, 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 that whole thing. And I was just so fascinated by the fact that, like, here I always thought any worldview, any information that comes, I'm going to listen to and think about and change my worldview if it's different than what I previously believed, with the exception of one subject, which was Christianity and Christ in general. And I was so fascinated on that. Like I say, that the walls disappeared. And in that moment, it's not a literal, but it's the best way I can say it, is I felt a tap on my shoulder. And I didn't find Jesus. Jesus didn't find me. He just reminded me he had always been there. And without even thinking, I just opened the box. And you ever have a high contrast CAT scan where they put iodinated contrast in your veins? So what happens is, I know who this is, and they will not stop. From the injection point, it feels just like warmth, and you feel it spread through your veins until it hits every corner of your body. It's what it felt like to me that night when this happened. And it's like, I was just instantly, unbelievably humbled at how wrong I've been about everything this whole time. Like, just infinitely wrong. I didn't need to read anything. I didn't need to study anything. All I knew in that moment was absolutely true is my whole life I've been looking for love that would not abandon me, and it was right in front of me the whole time. And I was denying it. And even while denying it and turning my back on God, He was just bestowing blessing after blessing after blessing upon me. Why? It still, as you can see, still upsets me to this day that I don't understand why. Like, I should have been being smited, right? Not blessed. And instead, like, I'm a high school dropout with no college education. Like, the things I've gotten to do and the money I've been paid to do it is ridiculous. And then to meet someone like Lake, who's a million times more than I deserve, and then my daughter, who's just the most wonderful person. I just love her to death. It's like the blessings that I have are unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I knew in that moment that, what I was, I'm not anymore. And not only that, the second part of it was the calling to spread that to as many other people as I can. It's not selfish of me to try and keep it to myself. Anyone else who's never felt that, including devout Christians.
Yeah.
Because it was preached and put to me wrong as a child. I never felt that. And it was never put to me in that way. It was just like, especially with Catholicism, and it's not a knock on Catholicism. I am a Catholic. But the way the masses go and the way it's really preacher or priest dependent, right? If you don't have a priest who preaches that love of Christ, then you're not going to know that part. And that was the first thing I told Ava about it. She'd asked something about Jesus, and I'm like, well, Jesus loves you. How does he know me? I'm like, oh, Jesus knows you. He knows you and he loves you. And she loves to ask this because we do this. How much you love me, Daddy? More than anything, right? So one of the things I should mention why I'm constantly doing mints and I have these sniffy things is I'm 20 plus years of trying to quit nicotine. Put it in God's hand and it was done in a week.
Wow.
A week.
That's awesome. I'm proud of you.
Brad, it's been tough. And it was the one time a little bit of old me came back out because you know, when you're going through nicotine withdrawal, it's pretty severe. But yeah, I just put it in Jesus' hands, and I've been trying to quit since I was 18. So it's really more like almost 30 years of trying to quit. And boom, done. But anyway, I was almost done with that thread. Where was I on about with the? Oh yeah, it's to help give that to people, even people who have been in the church forever, who maybe, you know,
feel like they have it all figured out.
Not even that. It's just like it's just something they do because they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And,
it's like a ritual that you don't really think about why you're
and
doing
they believe
it.
in all of that. And they're not non-believers, but maybe have never truly felt, like viscerally felt the love of Jesus Christ in their life. And if I can help. Now, I'm more focused on people who don't believe in any capacity, but I even people who do, who I don't think are doing it right. That's not the way I want to say it.
I understand what you're trying to say, but
who aren't getting the full benefits of it.
Yeah.
Right, because you believe and you're doing stuff right. You know, I don't want to say I'm right and you're wrong. It's not what I'm trying to convey here in any capacity. But like, if you haven't felt what I felt, like I just want to give that to everybody. I just want to, if I could make a pill and give it out and like, here it is, here's Jesus' love in pill form, and boom, you're going to take it and feel it, just like, you know, I would, but I don't think it works like that. But
I had a conversation pretty similar to what you're talking about last night, where like I'm not a crier. I'm not a crier at all. I've just never really been. I don't like the feeling of being that vulnerable where someone could take something and turn it against me. So I've just pretty much shut that off my whole life. And I've actually never been able to cry. And the last time I did was when I think Grandpa died, where I actually cried. And I really didn't allow myself to process it. That was 2019. So right around the time that Ava was born, I didn't let myself process it. And I still haven't, because like at that moment when Grandpa died, we still have a piece of him with us through Barb. Like we don't get to process what we're feeling, especially around Barb, who is his wife that has Alzheimer's, who I share a room with. Like I'm like in the trenches, and my mom and I recently talked about this, but last night I was having a conversation and someone had mentioned, they're like, yeah, you're really kind of hurting me because I feel like you don't really care about our relationship right now. Like, I feel like you've just kind of given up. And I was like, actually, I just realized that I'm prioritizing the wrong things, and that I don't really care what this world has to say about the way it should be done. And that I've been standing in your way in many ways because I thought I knew what was best, and I don't. I actually don't. So you know what you got to do. I know what I got to do. And what I want to do with specifically the Women Create Armies podcast is I want to tell people, just remind them that you are loved, you deserve better, and you have been lied to your whole life, and you have to choose to see that and acknowledge the lies you're telling yourself so that you can have the feeling that you're feeling. And I started bawling. I'm like, you have no idea like how freeing it is to be able to tell someone that you actually, like, not tell someone you don't care about what they have to say, where you can listen to everyone and come away and know that you're on a path that they may or may not understand. Sure. And that all you're going to do is be a good example and try and like show them in everything that you do, every single moment of the day, that God does love you. He's always there. And all the good things that have happened in your life was him nudging you in that direction. And one day you will notice, if you choose to notice, and some, like, it'll just happen in like a nanosecond, less than a nanosecond.
Literally. It was like I said,
he lays the groundwork. Like, he doesn't do anything without a purpose. And so even the most, like, the worst atrocities, there is a reason that we may actually not ever understand on this earth, but just know that God is there and he does care about you. And it's so freeing to actually read the Bible and then understand some of that, like understand how he's been influencing you in your life, and how the good people in your life who maybe don't always do the right things but have been influencing you in positive ways, and where you can take people where they are and meet them and understand where they came from and why they're doing what they're doing.
And that's a big part of it too. As much as I want to, you know, and this has happened quite a bit already, in chatting with people. You know, I have a homosexual friend who was raised in the faith as well, who, you know, kind of abandoned the church, and I've been chatting with him. And as much as I'm trying to shepherd him, you know, back to Christ, like he's helping me as well. Like he's a very profound individual, likes to talk too. So I have to listen for long periods on him, because I'm, again, patient, and I want him to express himself. But you know, he's had a lot of really good points for me to consider too. Things that, you know, he's talking about other people that did him in poorly over his life, and I'd be like, oh, you know, I would have done that too. You know, that sounds like me actually. So it's like, as much as I'm trying to help him by, you know, you don't have to abandon your faith, no matter what, you know, sin you're living in. We all are.
Or whatever demons you're fighting.
We all are. And it's not like, you know, whatever it is you think you are, oh, God can't love me because of that. Well, you know, if you can love an asshole like me, you can love anybody, right? None of us are perfect. We're all very imperfect. And so whatever that sin is that you're committing, is like, as long as you know, it's all right there in the Bible. Even, you know, beyond, like, you know, not everyone, I think, needs to become, I'm kind of doing it because it's just how I am, but not everyone needs to become a biblical scholar either.
No.
Like it's very simple. But everyone, if you read it too much, and you can start getting into the nuances of translations, right? It's and stuff like that. But it's really, really simple. You know, Jesus loves you. He died for you. As long as you accept him in your heart and you do your best to not suck, you're probably going to go to heaven. This is the simplest way to put it, right?
Yeah.
And acknowledging where you do suck, like on a daily basis, where I failed today. Like, I know how I'm supposed to be, and you know, every day I fail, and every day I acknowledge my failures, and I try my hardest to improve upon them, and that's really all I can do. You know, I'm never going to. This is where Ava has drastically come on to Team Jesus, where you know, my wife doesn't unfortunately stand much of a chance, even though we are equally teaching her about Jesus and Buddha. Buddhism is a great philosophy, by the way.
Yeah, I read that book, and just like the end pages, I didn't read the stories, and I'm like, it's so on par with Christianity.
There's a lot. There's parts that aren't, but there's parts that are. The problem with where Buddhism isn't gonna, like, especially in the hearts of a child. To go back to my court one, Buddha doesn't care. There's no lawyer. Buddha doesn't know your name. Buddha doesn't love you. He never professed to be a god. He's just a man who figured out a path to, they call nirvana, right? And the way to nirvana is basically, let's try and put Buddhism in a nutshell, is to get rid of all attachment. All attachment. Even to yourself. Like, you don't exist. You have to detach yourself from your own being, right? So sure, that's fine to give up, you know, caffeine, and I'm not going to chase material goods and all that. I could always get with. So I always called myself Buddhish, not Buddhist, even when I was trying to be. But I have to not love my parents. I have to not love them. But you have to be as detached from that as you are from material things, like, so that they could pass and you could just be like, such is the way of the universe. Oh, and dude, I can never do that.
It's hard. I think I understand how that would link to Christianity, but
if you can't, but here's the difference: if you can't do that, then you don't go to nirvana. You just get recycled. You get reincarnated, and that's what karma actually is. People are like, oh, it's bad karma. It's going to come back. Karma doesn't come back on you in your current life. Karma has to do with where you're going to get reincarnated. Bad karma, you're coming back as a dung beetle. Good karma, you know, you'll come back as and you keep doing this until you can achieve perfection. And then go to nirvana. Well, knowing what you know about Christianity,
no one's ever going to do that.
When are you ever going to achieve perfection? It's not. And so
Unless you become Jesus himself, and that's impossible.
Well, but again, within the confines of Buddhism, that doesn't exist. You literally have to live that perfect life. And you can, like, a Buddha just means the enlightened one, so you can achieve Buddhahood. But you have to do, like, even more than these things that I've already listed out, which is just not feasible. Right? So within Christianity, it's okay. With Christ, no, he not only he knows you specifically, he knew of you when he was on the cross. And even if he was dying just for you, to just save you, he would.
Can you imagine knowing everything about everything? Is like
no, and I wouldn't want to. Our little brains would just pop.
Understanding how you're going to be persecuted and
doing it anyway.
But
see, to finish that thread though, so it's like, as a kid, think of that. It's like, all right, no matter, it's just a better, even if not, to me it's real, but even if they were just stories, it's just such a better story to a child. It's like, oh wait, he loves me, he knows me.
There's literally no downside to being a Christian, except that the downside is you have to give up a lot of the lies that you told yourself. It's not. It's not. But that's how it's perceived by a lot of people.
Oh yeah. So I don't get to sin anymore. Yeah, but it's like, the more I give up, the more I realized, it wasn't. I can't do. I can't do drugs. I used to do quite a bit of drugs. There's not many I haven't tried in my life, and it's like, one of the songs that was on that playlist I shared with you is one of my favorite lines in that song is, "I've done drugs, but they never loved me back."
Oh,
right. It's a great tune. But that line in particular always hit me, right? As again, you're looking for love. One of the places a lot of people do it is in drugs. Oh, and I don't want to give that up. I don't want to give up drinking. I don't want to give up, any of this other stuff. And you don't entirely have to, I don't think, to be a good Christian per se. But I had given up alcohol well before this happened anyway. So that's not even a big loss to me. But, lying and cheating and what is that really doing to you? Unless you are a psychopath, right? And again, I'm big on the meaning of the words. You just have to have sympathy for psychopaths. They literally lack the part of their brain where empathy comes from.
Yeah.
So it's some of the crap they do, even them I can have sympathy for because I realize they don't have sympathy. So where I feel bad for doing something mean to someone, they just don't feel that. So if that were the case, how would I behave? Ooh, I don't even know if I want to know what I'd be like if I completely lacked empathy. Although I completely forgot the thread we were going on where I brought up the psychopath part. So
I do the same thing.
Is this a good chance to reset onto something else? Maybe.
But I do like. I like that you brought up that song, like how that one line stuck out to you. So you sent me that song, IDK. I don't even know who it's by, but I've been listening to it.
Oh, it's such a great tune, isn't it not?
Love it. But there's one line that really stuck out to me.
Let's see. I want to see if it's one of the ones that...
It's that even demons know their place.
Yeah,
that line specifically, every time I hear it, I'm like, this is like so profound. And I'm sure, I don't know, maybe she understood exactly what she was doing when she did it and she's just a genius. But like, what I've been learning more about is like demons actually were never human. And it's one of the reasons they really hate us and specifically hate Jesus is because Jesus, God, that he did come and he was man. He does understand what we're going through, which is why he has a lot of compassion and mercy and grace for us. But demons, they don't like us and we are above them. God placed us above demons and even above angels.
Well, demons were angels too, if I remember correctly.
Demons are fallen angels.
They came with Lucifer
because they also have
because
they also have free will. But if you read the Bible, there's no redemption path that we're aware of that demons have, but we as people do.
Right.
That redemption is that Jesus came and died for your sins so that you can go to heaven and eventually he's going to come again.
Right.
So there is a redemption path for us.
But not for them.
But not for demons.
And they want to take that away from us.
Yes.
Then,
and so they don't have any power because what demons and what Satan, what he really hates is he doesn't like to be mocked because he is not us. Like so then I heard that. I read that and I was like, okay, well, what does it mean to mock someone? If they have a demon in them, do I just like, oh, Jeff, you don't know they have a demon in you? It's like, no, that's not like really what that means. It's like Satan is mad and the fallen angels are mad that they have never been human and that we actually are above them. And
in God's eyes, anyway, in God's love. Yeah.
Which I was, oh my God, I love that song though. I'm definitely gonna have to insert a.
It's a
something or
credit to her.
link it.
I'm trying to, help promote any basically Christian music artists. It's all I listen to now. It's like I told you,
Same.
when I did my dissection, it's like, and movies are movies. I never took much of myself from movies, and I can watch a movie that it has a bad, the one that I will say, and my buddy's, he's kind of calling me a prude because we played certain games and I'm like, I just don't want to play this anymore. And he would recommend another game. He recommended one called Diablo. And my instant reaction is like, it's Diablo 4, right? And I'm like, I'm not playing a game called Devil 4. I do know a little Spanish. He's like, no. It's about like you're an angel and you're going into hell and slaying demons. I'm like, well, I can't say that's a bad thing. So I went and I looked into it, and it's actually very heavily based on Gnosticism. And I don't
know what Gnosticism is.
So Gnostic, it was a form of Christianity back in like the 1st century. But it was a twisted form of Christianity. Essentially, it as much as I say I don't take Genesis literally, I still believe Genesis, which is God created, the heavens and the earth and all of that. And then there's heaven, there's hell, and then there's earth, right? Mm-hmm. But within the Gnostic religion, there's only the elevated heavenly region, and through a war in there, the chaotic, impure physical world was born, right? So there is no hell. This is hell.
Right.
And it wasn't meant to exist, right? And it's this different form. And Christ didn't die. What was it they believed about Christ? It's not that he died for our sins. It was just that he was a prophet pointing out the truth or something of that nature. So it's a very twisted form of Christianity. And I'm like, dude, I'm not playing this, man. It's just no way. And then I think he's trolling me at this point. That was who's texting me. Then that one he just sent me was like one of those games where you got to craft and build up a world, right? And it's called V Rising. So it's basically you're a vampire. Oh. And you got to craft your way up until you can take over the entire world. I'm like, you have read Dracula, right, dude? He's like, no, what are you talking about? Dracula was a man. He became a vampire through making a pact with the devil. Now, if you get into old world vampirisms, they're more like zombies, like the old Eastern European myth of vampires. But Bram Stoker changed that. Right, and the vampires in the game you sent me are far more Bram Stoker type, the well dressed, and I'm like, yeah, they made that's literally an agent of the devil, and you're asking if I want to play that right now, like he knows everything that happened with me. I'm like, no, dude, that's not a game I'm gonna play. Yeah. Games are another one where I'm very picky because you spend a lot of time on it, right? And you're embodying the character. I'm not just watching it on a screen. I'm playing as the person doing the thing. So if it's murdering, I'm murdering. If it's, you know what I mean? If I'm...
Well, to me, it's anything that like you're consciously or subconsciously doing. And so subconsciously, like at the movie thing, I think it's important to kind of like learn things, but I actually don't love a lot of movies nowadays. It's kind of because it's something that you could turn your brain off and just watch, and then you're not really consciously understanding what it is.
How it's influencing you. Yeah. There's a solve.
Which is true with music, which is true with video games. Sometimes, like, how often do you just get on and you just know your hands just know exactly what to do.
I'm like, so the thing, the cure to that for me is just I don't consider. So I'm trying to be productive with my time, which is not something I used to be. Now I want my time to be used valuably. Movies are not a valuable use of my time. Video games are not a valuable use of my time. I'm going to continue to play video games because one of my very close friends...
That's how you connect with some people.
...who lives far away.
I can appreciate. God didn't tell you to avoid places where sin happened. He called you to go there so you can bring those people out and bring him to the light.
And I'll go to movies with friends and stuff, but as far as sitting around on my own and like I'm just kind of...
No. I know that you play them. How do you see that fitting into your future?
I fell off video games years ago anyway. It wouldn't have been a very interesting conversation. As soon as I had Ava, most of that stopped.
Yeah, and I kind of figured because you're kind of just like, oh, well, yeah, music, obviously. It's obviously like...
I listen to music daily, and I'm not going to get rid of music from my life because I can listen to music and do other things.
It's powerful.
But it's not a waste of time.
No.
I can put my thing on while I'm doing stuff. Yeah. I can't do that and watch a movie. I can't do that and play a video game. I can't be doing constructive things. But music, dude, you drive... Put your earphones on when you're putting up siding. Your music's always there.
And also, if you don't have something in your brain, again, idle minds are the devil's workshop. So if there's really nothing in there, now we have to choose to be silent and to be in God's presence too. And that's really hard, especially for me in our world that gears us towards just filling everything with chaos, you know? But one thing that I will end on is I love like your question and kind of how we started this episode with the branding and stuff.
Oh yeah, I love things that come full circle. So let's come back into that somehow.
And I think it's incredibly ironic that my first episode is not with another woman.
I was wondering that. When you told me I'm the first one, I'm like, shouldn't I be a chick? You know, I mean, it is 2025. I could have identified as one for you, I suppose.
Right? But it's not meant to be exclusive by any means, but it's definitely like, I mean, there's going to be a lot of men, I hope, watch this, but really like, I feel like my calling is mostly to appeal to younger women. Sure. And it doesn't mean that we ignore the men around us or that we only are listening to other women, because anyone who has spent an evening or a sleepover with just women kind of know the dumb shit we talk about and how we all kind of tumble down the hill. We need men to stabilize us. So it has to be a unit, and then you have to have these conversations. And honestly, if I'm being totally honest, me as a woman, I've always had better conversations with men because I've shunned the part of me that makes me a woman, where I struggle sometimes to connect with another woman. So I don't always think that my points can be made well, or because again, a lot of women might come from a more emotional place, and not that I don't have emotions, but I spent a large part of my life shutting them off. And I want to kind of like, it doesn't matter who I'll bring on. I'll bring on any person, but we all have something important to say, no matter your gender. So it's not necessarily exclusive, and I'm only going to talk to other women. Well, again,
I am honored to have been the first guest on Women Create Armies. I look forward to acing watching this one, although I can't promise I will.
I probably won't either. So
I do. I had to make these videos at work, and I can't watch them.
No.
I hate watching myself.
What do I tell you all the time, Jason? I was like, I'm paying him to post all myself because I never want. He'll send me screenshots like, oh, it's doing really well. And it's like, great. I don't even know what I said, but
I can't, I can't watch myself on screen. So I'll watch your future ones though.
You're fine. You know? No hard feelings.
Although I am interested in the some of the stuff too, like where the shorts, if there's some good ones that come up, however that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
but thank you for joining us.
Get home. Yeah, absolutely. I cannot believe that went an hour 45. I apologize. I was like, they almost should have a timer. I was like, we got to be coming up on an hour. We have been just jabberboxing. But yeah, you're right.
Awesome.
It's 9:53. Yeah, it was a ton of fun.
Thanks for joining us on Women Create Armies, and I hope that you'll join us next time. Thanks. Bye.